Hello everybody and welcome to our first episode of Let's Get Knitting. I'm really happy to see you and I'm so glad that you clicked on the video here today. I know that you have reservations probably starting off about how to knit. Some of you are thinking, I can't do this. And you're right, you can't. Because, just like walking, you couldn't do that at the beginning, could you? No. Reading a book, that took time, that took practice. But you know what? If you can use a knife and fork to feed yourself, you can learn how to knit, okay? So don't let those fears stop you. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you very slowly through the process of knitting. And we're going to go step by step, okay? And if people have questions, all they have to do is put those questions into the comments box below the video and I'll answer those as best I can every week. Now, I'm going to let you in on another little secret. I can't knit. So, this is something that we're learning together. So, every week I'm going to struggle just like you, okay? And every week, there's going to be stuff that's going to get to me. I'm going to drop stitches, I'm going to have too many stitches, I'm going to have holes in my knitting. There's going to be stages where I just want to fling it to one side and just forget about it. That's fine, okay? Don't take yourself too seriously. Chill out, relax. This is going to be fun. This is meant to be relaxing. This is going to take our mind off what's going on around us. I'm not going to even mention it. Okay? And, if we do this little bit of creativity every day, you'll find that it really does lift your mood. So, what I'm going to go through now is a few little initial things that we need to do before we start knitting, okay? Okay, so a few tips before we get started, okay? Make sure your hands are nice and warm, okay? I've got this little guy. He keeps my hands lovely and warm, as you can see. Just shove them in there into his belly. But if you haven't got one of those, just shake out your hands first. Give them a rub. Make sure they're really nice and warm. Make sure the circulation is going through them because you can't knit with cold hands, okay, lads? It's just impossible, okay? Now, secondly, be comfortable, okay? Make sure the house is nice and warm before you start. Put on your fluffy socks, your lazy pants, and make sure you have a nice little area to just sit down here to do your knitting. Maybe get rid of the cat first, or keep the cat, whichever you want. Okay, so needle-wise, I would recommend needle size 6 or over. Now, the reason I'm saying 6 or over is because you want to see that you're making progress with your knit. If you go with a very small needle, you're just going to give up because it'll take so long for you to actually see what you're knitting that you'll just lose your mind, okay? So go for a size 6. The size is going to be written up here. Go for a size 6 or you can go bigger. You can go really big if you want, especially kids. If you're getting the kids into this, go with a bigger needle, and even a plastic needle would be better because it's lighter for them, so it'll be a lot easier for them to use, okay? Now, wool. You can find the wool in any Mr. Price or pound shop around the country, or you might have wool at home, or maybe you might have a jumper you don't want anymore. Rip it up, use it again. So the wool I'm using is 2-ply wool. And it's called 2-ply wool because basically, I don't know if you can see it or not, but it has 2 lengths of wool that are wrapped around each other. But I think the wool you get in most of the pound shops, they are 2-ply. Now, if you're using the bigger needle, you can go with a 4-ply wool. So that would be just a thicker wool, okay? So I know the question that's going to be on everyone's mind is, what are we going to knit? Okay, well, we're going to keep it simple, lads, okay? Every week, I'm going to show you how to do a new stitch. and we're going to knit a square, okay? So for the younger people out there, if you want to make a square maybe 10 by 10, so what that means is when you're knitting, you're going to cast on 10 stitches and you're going to knit 10 rows and then you're going to cast off, okay? For the older people, or anybody for that matter, who feels that they can go for a bigger square, they can cast on 40 stitches and knit 40 rows and cast off, okay? So every week we're going to do this, and we're going to knit a different square every week. And during the week, I would hope that maybe you would knit more than one square of that design stitch, so that you'd have loads of squares. And at the end of all this, hopefully, if we don't pull our hair out, we are going to put these squares together and we are going to make a blanket. So each and every one of you is going to have a blanket at the end of this. But that's only if you stick with me, if you have patience, okay? And you just relax, okay? Zen. Things are going to be difficult at the beginning, okay? I'm going to go crazy too, but we just have to keep at it bit by bit, okay? So kids and adults alike, just relax, chill out. If you find that it's getting to be too much, just walk away from it, okay? It's like a jigsaw. You're not going to get it all done in one go. Okay, you're going to have to go at it bit by bit every night, and then eventually we are going to be pros at this. We better be pros at this, okay? Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to make a little knot so we can put this on our needle. So what I like to do, wrap it around your finger like so. Pull it through, and there you've got your first stitch, okay? So you take your knitting needle, and with your left hand, you're going to just slide this on like so. Now, that's one way of putting the first stitch on your needle, okay? So if you struggle with that one, another way to do it is just tie a simple little knot like this. Make sure you give yourself enough length in the wool this way, and then you're just going to slide this onto your needle, okay? So use that knot if you find the other one too complicated. You'll get used to the other one as you progress. So now we're going to cast on our stitches. So the first thing to know about the needles, if you hold them like you hold a knife and fork to begin with, it'll make things a little bit simpler for you, okay? So what you do is you push your needle through the hoop and you go to the back of the other needle. Then you take your wool, okay, just try to do this in a way that you can actually see it. You wrap it around the right needle, and then you're going to pull it through. And as you pull it through, you're going to just loop it back onto the needle. Now, I'll do that again, and I'll do it very slowly. So, you push into your stitch, going to the back of your left needle. You grab your wool, you wrap it around your right needle, like so. So it's wrapped around there, and then you're going to pull it through, like so. And keep the tension on your right needle, where you have your finger on the wool, keep it loose, and that'll help you put the stitch back onto the left needle. So what we're going to do is we're going to cast on 20 of these stitches to begin with, okay? Now, if you find this difficult, you could start with 10 stitches, and you could knit 10 rows. But if you're feeling confident, cast on 20 stitches and knit 20 rows, okay? Okay, so 3 hours later, I have my stitches cast on. Woohoo! Now, so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to start knitting. So we're going to push our needle in, go to the back of the other needle like we did before. We're going to take our wool and we're going to wrap it around our right needle at the back of the stitch. And then we're going to slowly push it through, pop it onto this needle. Now what you need to do then is you need to pull this stitch off your needle. Just let it go. Now, so you'll see at the moment that this stitch is quite loose. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to push my needle into my stitch here, and as I do that, I'm just going to pull my wool so that my other stitch becomes quite tight. Now, whatever you do, don't pull it too tight, because if you do that, you'll find that you won't be able to knit when you come to the next row. It'll be too hard to get the needle through. So we're going to do this again. We're going to take our wool, we're going to wrap it around the needle, and then we're going to use our little finger here just to push this needle through. As you can see, I've got my new stitch. So I'm going to hold my needle like this and just use it as leverage to pull the stitch off the other needle. Now, so we're going to knit. Keep knitting until we have our first row done. Now, if you didn't get that straight away, just pause me, rewind me, and have a look again and see what I'm doing. Now, so I have all my stitches knitted onto my right needle. So basically what you do then is you just switch this needle over into your left hand. And basically, do you see these kind of wiggly stitches here? These are the ones that should be facing you, okay? So all you have to do is start all over again. And basically you do this 20 times until you have 20 rows knitted. Right, lads, here's a shocker for you now. Do you know the way I said cast on 20 stitches and knit 20 rows and you'll get a square? Guess what? You don't. So I had to knit 30 stitches, or 30 rows I should say, and I have 20 stitches. Now, I don't know how that happened, but it's a square. So if anyone out there knows, please, give me the information, because I haven't got a clue myself. I'm not a mathematician. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to cast off. So what you're going to do, knit a stitch like normal. Okay, so that one's on there. Now, the next stitch you're going to knit. So you've got 2 stitches on one needle, but the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take your first stitch and you are going to pop it over the second stitch on your needle. Now, so I'll do it again. You knit your normal stitch. And if you want to, what you can do is pick it up like this with your fingers and just pull it over the first stitch like so. And see the way you're casting off those stitches as you go along. Now, so we'll do another one. We'll do it slow. Knit as normal. You've got 2 stitches on your needle. Then you're going to take this stitch and you're going to pull it over the other one, so it disappears. That didn't work very well. We left half of it behind that time, lads. Hold on now. There we go. That's better. Okay, so I'm going to do this the whole way along until I get to the end. Pull it over. So when you get to the last stitch on your knitting needle, what you can do is pop it off. Then you're going to get your wool and you're going to pop it through the loop like so. going to just cut your wool. And you're just going to pull it so it gets tight. At this stage, I'd just put another knot in it, just to make sure it's secure. There we go. So there's the first square. Now it's not really the first square because I have to admit I have been knitting all week to try and perfect this, okay? So my advice to you is, if you drop a stitch, just keep going. If you increase a stitch, keep going, okay? No point looking back, just keep going. Don't lose your mind. Just keep going, keep practicing, and try knit a few of them. See how you get on, okay? And I will be back next week for more torturous knitting. Okay, have fun, and let me know how you get on, everybody.